Shalom, everybody. Rabbi Ariel here from the KosherTorah School. I want to continue discussing the things that I've been sharing from our previous videos from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. To give us a little timestamp, it's after now Yom Kippur. We're in the days leading up to the holiday of Sukkot. Sukkot is the Feast of Booths, in which we actually build a sukkah, which is little area. We live outside for the week. And while in many places around the world, the traditions are today just to eat in the sukkah, the actual laws where you're supposed to actually live, sleep, and even do, stuff with, your spouse in the sukkah. Yeah, those are the things that discuss in halakha too. And the reason why that's important for me to say is because we need to understand what the path of God is all about. All right. We talk about the path of God. Too many people get this into their heads like it's religion. I'm not talking religion. I'm talking about reality in this world. And with regards to current events and things that are happening now, well, this is where we really need to focus. So Sukkot is the time when, let's be blunt, we're supposed to remember that we are natural creatures living in a natural world, and to recognize the true archetypal enemy of all humanity, believe it or not, is urbanization and a technological development which removes us out of the natural environment and puts us into an artificial one, artificial intelligence, artificial realities. In the Bible, in the Torah, that was called the Tower of Babel. There's a lot more to the Tower of Babel than most people know. I cover that in my book, Aliens, Angels, and Demons. If you're interested, go look it up there. We need to understand where we are today with regards to current events. During the holiday now of Sukkot, as those of you know Jewish tradition, in the synagogue, we read from the Torah scroll, of course, and we have a section that we read that speaks about the holiday. We also have a section of the prophets that we read during this time. On the first day of Sukkot, we read the famous prophecy in the book of Zechariah, chapter 14, which speaks about the great earthquake and the coming of God and his holy ones and reclaiming the world. And during Shabbat, we read the famous prophecy from the book of Ezekiel about the great war of Gog and Magog. Let's talk about this war of Gog and Magog. As the rabbis say, that what is discussed in Zechariah chapter 14 and what is discussed in Ezekiel 38, 39 about Gog and Magog, it's one and the same. It's an overlapping prophecy. Well, most people do not understand the nature of biblical prophecy in general. They most certainly don't know how to put their finger on where we are today in this process. Our sages always knew that which we call the wars of Gog and Magog would happen in 3 stages. And when we read things in the books, we don't necessarily put the dots together, as we say, to recognize how it's actually materializing. So looking back over the period of the last century or so, many of the prophetic sages have recognized that the, in quote, 3 stages of Gog and Magog, we've already seen 2 of them. We've called them World Wars I and II. And we anticipate and expect a World War III as the ultimate culmination. But we need to understand, for those who are of this mindset that somehow the magic Messiah is going to come out of the sky singing the old Mighty Mouse song, "Here I Come to Save the Day," this is not going to happen. I write about this in my book, Visions of the End of Days, in which I discussed the prophetic prophecies in Daniel. And I elaborated on all of this end time stuff there. Again, if you want the details, source material, go read the book. It's available on Amazon, like all my books are. The point is, we're in a process, in a scenario. Like I discussed in the previous episode, there is a lot more going on than what we think. There is so much with multidimensional realities overlapping and interacting. It's coming to a point where the higher and lower realities are going to come and merge and, if you will, hit or slide together, if you will, like the plates in an earthquake kind of stuff. It's happening now. This is the underlying reason why there is so much chaos in the world, everywhere, in human psychology. And the dark forces that be, yeah, there really aren't those kind of guys out there. They're just literally doing their job. They're fulfilling a role that was literally written for them in God's book from the beginning of the story. As using modern metaphor, it's probably appropriate to say that human history is following a script by divine design, and it's quantum enough in flexibility to take into account all kinds of human behavior. So I should say human behaviors. I don't edit my videos, so when you see me making mistakes like this, hey, what you see is what you get. But getting back to the point, we need to understand where we are in this whole scenario. Because like I shared, I do not see a nuclear war, an apocalypse coming this year. But I see so much chaos, so much confusion. They're rioting in the streets, as you know. Corruption is at a level where in which today we can't trust anyone or anything. People are isolating themselves. There's no concept of unity anymore. We need to learn a Kabbalistic, a prophetic, a biblical concept, which is vital for life. And yeah, I'm putting it in a religious context because no one's doing this. And that is something that you see it all out there on the internet. It's called prepping. Yeah, being a prepper. Now, being a prepper is not a political persuasion. It's a concept that is very biblically grounded, that you must be prepared for what is coming. Throughout our Torah traditions, our sages have always taught us this, right? Ezihu hacham, who is wise? Haro'eh nolad, one who sees what's coming. And if you see what's coming down the pike, you take appropriate preparatory steps. You know, a very important prophecy from the prophet Habakkuk. The Gemara says that this one teaching of Habakkuk literally sums up all of the Torah, right? Masechet Makot Daf Kaf Daled Amud Aleph. Tzaddik be'emunato yichiyeh. The righteous live by their faith. Now, what that means is that you're not just walking blindly and aimlessly around and saying, well, God will provide. No. Remember good old Benjamin Franklin, right? He spoke true Torah words when he said, God helps those who help themselves. We have to see what's coming down the pike. We have to be realistic, practical, and grounded, and recognize we are in this Gog and Magog process right now. Notice I called it a process and not an event, because if we're going to use the word event, then it's going to spread out over years. We are in a energetic shift of collective human consciousness, and it's drawing in other non-humans, whether they be what do they call them, crypto terrestrials. I think that's one of the words they're coining now, because well, everybody believes that all these, in quote, aliens are coming from, outer space, right? They have nothing better to do than to, travel from Andromeda to come to Earth and try to pick up, human women. Really? No. This is all much more grounded in parallel dimensional realities, inner Earth dimensional realities, and it's all interacting with the multiple intelligent races that are all around. And it's by divine design that everything's coming together now because God has his plan. We're part of that plan. If you look into that prophecy in Zechariah chapter 14, when the big earthquake comes and rips the Mount of Olives apart, supposed to make a chasm like 40 miles wide. That's bigger than the Grand Canyon. Well, that's pretty intense. And we are given instructions where to go, how to respond to that. You see, that's proper prepping. You know, years ago when I lived in California, they used to have the big signs on the highways that tell you should always have something in the trunk of your car, some food, some water, whatever, in case you get stuck with the fires out there, the earthquakes and the like. That's a very realistic, down to earth, and smart advice. I cannot encourage all of you guys enough. You should always have backup food in your house, backup supplies, whatever needs that you have. You should seriously consider, within all legal parameters, ways and means of self-defense. What is necessary if and when, like crazy stuff that we see happening in the streets in Chicago and Philadelphia, hit you. What are you going to do about it? If you're walking down the street, minding your own business, eating a pizza, and two guys just come and start to beat the snot out of you to steal your backpack. So I'll just give it to them. Well, maybe that's all they want. Or maybe they'll just take out a gun and shoot you because that's what they want to do. Yeah, okay. Your life and your safety and that of your family is in your hands. Don't be so heavenly minded that you become no earthly good. Remember, we're in a process now. God is with it all. And I'm going to tell you, don't go looking for the apocalypse and the end of the world. Right? Don't watch all these crazy movies. Think more like what happened a century ago with the Great Depression. Think about how Europe was destroyed during World War II and how people had to survive then. How would you survive if that were to happen in the United States, Canada, and the like? These are the things you need to take into consideration, especially as we come into the Sukkot holiday, which specifically discusses these matters. So I offer you these thoughts. We're in the process of Gog and Magog. We are in the greater scenario of what is called the end of days. But 500 years ago, ballpark time, even Marana Arizal said we're at the end of days, because the end of days is not a schedule, on the clock. It's a psychological state in which we as humanity are evolving into that greater time, which we call the Messianic era. It's not going to come by magic. No mighty mouse magic messiah is coming to wave his little twinkle magic wand. I know a lot of you want to believe that. And all due respect to a lot of you evangelical Christians, I know you really put a lot of hope in what you call the rapture. There's no foundational source for that in the Christian Bible. The Christian Bible doesn't teach that. As an Orthodox rabbi, I'd have to share that. I don't want to evoke, your anger or your prejudice, but guys, you should really check that out with theologians. I don't want you to have false hopes. We can get through this time if and when you're looking at God, focusing on what is righteous, moral, and true, that you're religiously, practically, psychically integrated as a human being to get through this period as a spiritual prepper. Because I don't care how much gold and silver you stack. I don't care how much food supplies. I don't care if you got 1 million guns. If your mind and your heart collapse within you, all of that's for nothing. And the only strength for heart and mind is going to be standing with God. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your doctrines or your beliefs are. You've always heard me say, I don't care what you think. I don't care how you feel. I only care about what you do. And that's how God looks at us, what we do. We can get through this if we take the proper, righteous, and wise steps now to be prepared for an unseen tomorrow. Guys, I pray that you'll take this to heart and that you will act accordingly. May God bless us all. Wisdom in mind, purity of heart, righteousness in deeds. God's blessings to us all. Looking forward to working with you. By the way, last word. I really think we need to spend a little bit more time together in these videos. So I'm planning, hopefully, to be doing a lot more of them, hopefully on a regular basis, talking about the Torah portion, what's happening in politics, what's happening in the world, with the hope and prayer that we get the job done right. God's blessings to us all. As we say in Hebrew, Hag Sameach. For those of us who are observing the Sukkot holiday, let's remember who the real enemy is and cling to our true friends. God's blessings to you all. Shalom.